Yo, welcome to another episode of Sports Talk on the Country Coach Podcast. I got tongue tied there, fellas. I'm sorry, I'm your host, Simply Nicholas 87. And with me, I have my co host tonight, T Hard and D Ron 2000. What's going on, fellas?
What's going on?
Hey man, happy to be here. It's another day. Let's do this.
Let's do it, man. You know what we finna get into, man. If y'all new to the channel, y'all go ahead and hit that subscribe button, man. Like the video, share the video, man. We on the way to 100 subscribers. Right now, we are probably 35 off from 100. So we need everybody as much as you can to come on up in here and subscribe to the channel, man. We got good content going on here, whether it's sports or general topics or sneaker reviews. We got it. We're gonna be doing a lot more stuff on this channel, but the sports thing, this is our Thursdays, and we finna get it in. What I want to talk about today is I want to do like a little recap. We didn't really get into one last week. I want to go into details of what y'all thoughts on the first round of the NBA playoffs. Uh, what did y'all think about the first round series? And, we'll get into this round series as well. So I'll pass it over to T Harden. What'd you think about the first round of the NBA playoffs, man?
Okay, a lot to unpack. We'll start with the Western Conference. If we go with the first series, the Denver Nuggets and the Memphis Grizzlies, who had no business even in there, but I'm not going to poo-poo on the Grizzlies. Looked like the Utah Jazz and Memphis Grizzlies, rather. Utah
Mm.
was a little rusty, but they took care of business. They did what they're supposed to do, and they moved on. Not really much there. Donovan Mitchell, of course, missed the first game. After he got back, he seemed to have recaptured his rhythm and back to playing at a high level. And the Jazz are a force to reckon with. This is probably the best we've seen the Utah Jazz since the late '90s and the Malone Stockton era. So it's good to see Utah back at elite level. If we go to the next series, that one kind of got by me a little bit. Lakers and the Suns.
Yeah,
Personally, I want to give credit to the Phoenix Suns because before I talk about what happened or what didn't happen, the Phoenix Suns won the series, so they deserve credit for that. Chris
right.
Paul, the addition of Chris Paul to that team has been tremendous. Not only his offense, but the leadership he brings, the pedigree, the veteran leadership he
Savage.
brings with
Yeah.
those young guys. As far as what happened with the Lakers, we know that the Lakers dealt with injuries, but that's a part of the game. A lot of other teams have been banged up too. We
Yeah.
just didn't seem to have enough in the tank. It seemed like everybody came back together right before the regular season ended. When it was time for the playoffs, you're trying to get it together. Again, it's kind of hard to try to get it together against a very good basketball team, and the Phoenix Suns are a very good basketball team. The Suns took care of business, and you know, kudos to them. They're going to be a tough out. They're a team that can win the whole thing if everything aligns right. So I mean, that's how I feel about that one. The next one, Clippers and Mavs. The, the Dallas Mavericks should be ashamed of themselves.
They should be.
They should be
Definitely.
ashamed of themselves. D-Ron, let me ask you something.
All
How
right.
in the world can a team up until Game 7 win every game on the road? You're up 3 games to 2. You've lost both. You lost the prior 2 games in your building. You got a chance to close out in your building. All you got to do is win one time in your building after stealing 3 road games, and you found a way not to do it. How does that happen? And who's to blame
I,
for that?
um, I would say a lot of it is I wouldn't say necessarily preparation, but I say inexperience with that team. When it comes to veteranship, they really don't have a lot of pieces that's on there that's you know has got to that level, especially this year where it's not a bubble. Now it's actually the playoffs where you have the crowds and you traveling and everything. They wasn't prepared for that from my perspective. Which a lot of that still comes from the coaching aspect. So to me, yeah, that series should have definitely went to the Mavericks. They had the Clippers done, but end of the day, you got to think about the Clipper situation and then with their coach and finally where a lot of their experience pieces that they have with which would you have with Kawhi, um, um,
Paul
um,
George.
Paul George, even like with the Hornets. My guy, would you think Batum is a pivotal piece of the Clippers? You know,
Yeah, and
you
his
do some-
role is different there too. With the Clippers,
yeah,
he's a utility guy, a veteran utility guy. So there's no pressure on him to be a cornerstone or a guy to carry the team. So
absolutely.
that's a better fitting situation for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of like they had the right pieces. Not saying that it's coming together where I'm still seeing them as a threat, but it persevered through the series because they do have that little bit of experience with those players. Like I
You
said,
know,
you have on the Dallas Maverick side, you have Luca, you have Porzingis, then you have Tim Hardaway Jr. Those pieces, they
and,
are kind of
and
important.
I'm glad you mentioned that because that comes to the next thing. Kristaps Porzingis, he was a no show. He left
Exactly.
Doncic there basically to swim by himself. Even in that game 7, Luka Doncic is not the reason they lost that. Kristaps Porzingis could not
Yep.
make extra shots when you needed him. Tim Hardaway Jr. did struggle in game 7, but Tim Hardaway Jr. was still trying to be aggressive and was still trying to take charges, still trying to take the ball to the rack. Even though his shot wasn't falling, he was still playing hard and still engaged. Kristaps Porzingis, to me, I'm wondering, is he a team player? The reports after the game, after the series is over, is that Porzingis feel like he's an afterthought to Doncic and doesn't feel like he's a co-star and not necessarily happy in his role. I'm sitting there like, that's not a team player. That's a guy who's more worried about himself. And maybe if he stepped up and played, they would actually have advanced in the series. Chris
So
a guy who makes a lot of money, who's often injured and doesn't come up when you really need him, and he's rarely available when you need him most. Then he has the audacity to complain about his role. The guy averaged 20 points a game during the season, and he was a no-show, especially on the road. I mean, on the in the games they lost in this series.
and I will
Absolutely.
say I'll add to this too with the Porzingis thing. You're 7'3". Why are you taking all these threes? Get your butt in the paint and bang. I get
Seven
you
foot
now.
three. He's
It
7'3".
bang,
He
That's
is
not his
seven foot
game.
three.
That's not his
bang.
game. He's scared to
But
bang.
you can still mix it just because you can. Like Dirk Nowitzki was a prolific 3-point shooter, but he wasn't one dimensional.
No, he was
Exactly.
one. And that's a true statement. But I just feel like Pristine is he wants to live by that glory of shooting the three and being a big man that can shoot versus just being a big man that can play.
He
Like
wants to be
very
Tony Kukoc.
yeah.
Nah, he won't be Tony.
Nah,
Sorry.
nah.
It's just the fact that you're 7'3". You should be double dimensional, or you should be able to be a dual threat.
Multi-dimensional. You're right.
Dimensional, both ends, defensively and offensively. You should be a threat. You should be a force to reckon
You
with.
should be in there rebounding.
Absolutely.
You
Blocker,
should be
shot
in there
blocker.
rebounding.
I
Right.
think if that Dallas Mavericks team want to move to the next level, they're gonna have to deal with Kristaps Porzingis
And,
and bring in a true co-star that can really complement Luka Doncic.
and see, this is the same thing that
Hard
happened
as
to
they
last
found.
year well, they didn't have Porzingis last year, did they? No.
He was in and out. He was there, but he was
Injury.
yeah.
Right.
He missed a couple games, then he played a couple. It was like he was always day to day. Like he's game time decision and that kind of stuff.
But giving credit to Luka Doncic for, man, I mean, the guy did
He's
all he
showing
could
me
do.
that he's not a fluke. I'll say
No,
that.
he's not.
He's a player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he can score in many ways. He's not. He can score from the three. He can dribble, penetrate. He can hit the step back jumper. He can score in multiple ways. It's not like he's not a one trick pony. He can play off the ball. He can score with the ball in his hand. He can create his own shot. As far as his offense, there's no flaw in his offense except when you crowd him. If I was a team playing against him, if you crowd him, he
Yeah.
he gets frustrated when he plays in traffic.
Oh
That's
yeah.
that's the one flaw. He doesn't play well in traffic. If you can crowd him and just kind of graze him and bang him a little bit and just kind of nudge him a little bit and always have 2 or 3 guys in his space and you crowd his space, that's when he gets frustrated and then he'll turn the ball over.
And that's what I would say too. But I give credit to Luka for even, hanging in there that long. I mean, there
He
wasn't a
didn't
lot.
lose. He competed to the very end, so I don't put it on him. But
I'm
that I
talking
mean
about,
that series comes down to Luka came to play in the supporting cast and the biggest moments came up short. And
and
I
I
and with
coach.
the sorry, go ahead. I didn't want to leave out the Denver Nuggets and the Portland Trailblazers series, but go ahead.
the coaching in Dallas is probably gonna change too. I
Well,
see that
Carlisle might retire or step down himself. You got to realize he's been there about 12, 13 years. He won a
Yep.
championship there 10 years ago. He's one of them guys that's been there so long to where he might step away and just take a break from the game for a little while. Then maybe after a couple of years, come back into coaching. I can see a situation where, let's say, if he steps away for a few years, a couple of years, a Greg Popovich might retire, and then a guy like Rick Carlisle can come back and coach San Antonio. I can see a situation like that.
I
Or
see that.
then I wonder about maybe a return to Indiana.
I see that
Possibly.
too.
Because Indiana just fired their coach, and Indiana got what they deserve after the way they treated Nate McMillan. And Nate McMillan still is actually in the playoffs in the second round in a tied series and get ready to go back home for 2 games. So Indiana,
Now that's going to be an interesting series right there, which I'm shocked about. But I ain't gonna cut it all. I know we got to finish the Western Conference side.
but that may be the case. We see. I feel like that might be one of the situations when they get a fresh face, someone else coming there, someone else might come into Dallas and take them to the next level. Kind of like the Mark Jackson thing. So I could see that happening in Dallas too, where somebody comes in and boom, next thing you know, they're a championship caliber team. Not necessarily because of what they're doing, but just by the time they stepped in.
Speaking of that, I know we were going into the Portland series
Yeah.
with them firing their coach. Who you think would be a better fit for them right now?
With the Portland Trailblazers, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't think it matters who coaches Portland. I think Portland is just as good as they're going to be. I'm talking about as constructed. It doesn't matter who coaches Portland team. They're a middle of the road Western Conference team. They're a good basketball team. They're solid. They're going to be in the playoffs every year, but they're just only thing they are solid. A couple of years ago, they got to the West Finals. They got a few bounces that went their way, and then they got swept by the Warriors. But other than that, they're typically a first or second round team, a good basketball team, but not a great basketball team. And it doesn't matter who coaches them. I'm trying to think of who would be a natural fit for the Portland Trailblazers. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of some of those West Coast guys because I feel like it's. I'm trying to think if there's someone in the organization like maybe a Terry Porter or somebody would be the coach. You got to realize Terry Porter he played with the Blazers back in the '90s, back with he and Clyde Drexler, Jerome Kersey,
yeah.
and Cliff Robinson, RP Jerome Kersey and Cliff Robinson. They played with those excellent Portland teams that went to 2 finals in 3 years. 1 year they lost to the Pistons, and 2 years later they lost to the Bulls.
The
But
Bulls.
I, I'm not saying I'm a Terry Porter fan, but Terry Porter has head coaching experience, and he's a part of the Blazer family. So I can see if they want to stay in the family, I can see maybe someone like a Terry Porter. Uh, um, Steve Clifford is available now, but I don't know if that's a move they would make. That job is not like it's the most desirable job in the world. Plus, nobody wants to live in Portland. It's up there in the corner in the Pacific Northwest. It's not like it's just a desirable place to be. So, and if anybody from Portland is listening to this, it's not an insult to your city, but it's just one of those things where it's not like that's somebody's dream job to be the head coach of the Portland Trailblazers. I can see if Luke Walton gets fired because you got to realize he'll get some privilege. I can see Luke Walton. The reason why is because he was born there. His
Yeah.
father was a league MVP for them for the Blazers. His father led them to the 1977 NBA championship, the only championship.
Bill Walton.
So I mean, I can if you want to deal with the Bill Walton tie, maybe a Luke Walton, but he's undeserving, so I can't see him being a desirable candidate. Oh, Lionel Hollins.
Yep.
Yeah.
That makes sense. You got to realize Lionel Hollins played on that championship team too. He played with Bill Walton and Maurice Lucas and who else? I said on those. Anyway, he played on those teams as well. Lionel Hollins had a very good run with the Memphis Grizzlies. Was let go for no really legit reason. I can his tenure in Brooklyn, they didn't have anything when he was up in Brooklyn. He was only there a year and a half or so. But I can see Lionel Hollins becoming the next head coach of the Portland Trailblazers. That's a natural base Trailblazer alum.
Here's the next question along with that. Do you think Dame is gonna stay after next year?
I don't know. I don't know, because with that loss to the, and this kind of segues, with that loss to the Denver Nuggets, you would have thought this would have been an opportunity for them to beat the Nuggets. You got to realize Jamal Murray didn't even play in the entire series. Just
Absolutely.
just 2 years ago, that same Blazers team defeated that same Nuggets team with the same
16.
personnel in the second round when they won Game 7 in Denver after CJ McCollum went off. I don't
Right.
to me, this is not me downing CJ McCollum because he's an excellent player, but that might be who you want to deal because
Yep.
the thing is they need more. McCollum's a good player, but as constructed, they're as good as they're going to be. It's either one of those things where Lillard's going to leave, or they're going to trade him and just tank and start over again, or they need to bring someone else in there to be a better co-star. Maybe a Bradley Beal. I'm not saying that's the guy, but I'm just throwing a name out there. That's a bigger guard because McCollum is like 6'3". He's an undersized two guard. Maybe if you bring a bigger guard back there, that might freshen things up a little bit. But I don't think no one really wants to go to Portland. So it would not surprise me if Lillard ended up elsewhere. I don't know where. I'm hearing the stuff about the Lakers. The thing is, who in the world besides Anthony Davis do the Lakers have to give up that Portland would accept, unless they're going to do a Kwame Brown for Pau Gasol type thing, where it's just like we're going to give our best player for scraps. And by the way, no diss Kwame if you hear this, because I know you'll go off on me. But
Yeah, we love you, Kwame.
yeah, and Kwame, you're the man. You earn $73 million, and so hey, you got more money than I probably ever earned in my lifetime. So, barring anything unforeseen. So, hey, much love and respect for you, Kwame, just as a man and as a human being. But from a basketball perspective, that was a bad trade from the Memphis Grizzlies standpoint, unless you're just starting over. So I don't see how the Lakers thing can come into fruition unless there's some kind of 3-team deal, and I don't see that either because there's no team that's going to go out there to try to help the Lakers get who they want.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah,
I don't see it. I can see more of a LAC than a LAL. I can
I see the Clippers being more of a destination for anybody who wants to go to LA. I think right now the Lakers are in a bad spot because of LeBron.
Yeah, because LeBron's that aging veteran, and it's kind of like when Kobe was at the stage in his career. God rest his soul. It's one of those things where people, when you're starting to get a certain age, people are not wanting to take a back seat to you. They're feeling like that, hey, I can compete with you, and you're getting, and it's now that it's not that same fear factor he had when he was in Miami when he had two other superstars with him. It's not that same fear factor even when he returned to Cleveland that second time when he had two stars with him because the white guy that played at UCLA. Kevin Love, he was considered a star at that time. He's not now, but at the time he was. It's not that same fear factor that he had when he ran the East. So, and this first round loss here kind of puts a stamp on that. Like, hey, he's starting to show a few chinks. Hey, he's starting to show he really is 36. It's like, hey, he can be beaten. So now it's a situation where it's like you might not have people just so quick to want to run to him when they see the other team across the hallway who has a legitimate championship shot as well. I can see. I'm trying to think of who the Clippers would give up, but
Paul George.
Then at that point you're breaking even. To me, I think Dame is a more clutch player than Paul George. But in the overall scheme of things, if you traded Damian Lillard for Paul George just on the level of superstardom or star power or offensive punch, you're breaking even. I don't think you've necessarily gotten better, but you haven't gotten worse. You're just kind of in the same situation.
Yeah.
So I don't.
Yeah. I mean, they make the deal more enticing. I mean, it definitely had to be something, somebody to get back from it,
And see, here's the thing, and the Clippers don't have draft picks to offer either because they gave them all to the Thunder. So
that's true. Yep.
So there's nothing there. So that's not. So with the Clippers, it's more of a who's going to be the piece to give up because it's not if he wanted to whine and cry and just make him do it, you could say like 3 first-round draft picks. The Oklahoma City has all of the Clippers draft picks for like the next 3 or 4 years. So
what that do to the Paul trade?
Not to Paul. When they sent Paul George to you remember Paul George played like a couple of years for Oklahoma City. They when they sent him to the Clippers, the Clippers gave like several of their draft picks on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, because it wasn't like because the only players that went in that, I think Danilo Gallinari went in that, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander went in that, and then
Okay.
like 3 draft picks or something along those lines. So that's kind of how that went. So
They sold Paul George.
so so now
Trade with Paul.
so now I'm wondering maybe he's from Oakland. I could. What if Klay Thompson's knee and Achilles and stuff ain't all the way right?
It still could be a three way because I heard Clay say he wants to maybe play for LA. I have heard that a couple of times.
Well, you got to realize his father, Michael Thompson, played for the Lakers.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
have heard that a couple of times.
I worry about Clay because you talking about you had a torn ACL. I'm not worried about that, but then you turn around with a ruptured Achilles, and I know he's a low to the ground player, so I'm not worried about it affecting his offense. I worry about can they defend laterally when he comes back.
Yep.
But yeah,
I'm not worried about the shooting. The shooting will be there. Can he defend laterally? And that's the only thing that scares me if the Lakers try to acquire him. But back to the Lillard thing. Lillard is from Oakland. The Warriors, they now play in San Fran, the same area. A homecoming where you can move Curry to 2 guard, put him off the ball with his natural position, and let Lillard play the point guard, and you can make it. You can get rid of Andrew. You can send Klay Thompson to the Lakers. You can send Andrew Wiggins to Portland or whatever, and some draft picks and stuff. And Portland just screw it and start over again, and let McCollum go wherever he wants. Maybe he'll go somewhere like a Dallas or something, and kind of bust things up. Who knows? But or here's another wild card. You could send maybe you say Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton, and send and the first round draft pick, especially if Milwaukee doesn't come back in the series. I could maybe he and Antetokounmpo could be a duo. That would be a nice force. That would be a true co-star. You could give it Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton. That's a fair trade. Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday and first round draft pick for by himself. And maybe you could maybe one of their bench guys to come along with it and make the salaries match. That can and Milwaukee should have the capital to do it because Giannis is the only big money person they got. Middleton, I think, did sign a deal, but that'll cancel out if you traded Middleton and Holiday for a Damian Lillard. If that's something that he want to do, that would be something that if I was Milwaukee, I'll be very interested. I'll pick up that phone right now and make that call. I was the series is over. And if they don't win tonight, the series will be over soon. I would make that call to see if that's what they're interested in.
right.
So but as far as the West is concerned, everything in the West kind of went as far as what most think would happen. I think the Lakers Suns thing was one that you thought by the Lakers being defending champions and having a full arsenal, you may have thought that was one they could have gotten. I thought the Lakers before the series started could have won that in 7. Fortunately, it didn't work out that way, but. So far, the higher seeds won every series as expected. That's the West went like we thought it would go. As far as the East, who's number 1 seed? The Sixers.
Yeah, Philadelphia.
Who did the Sixers play?
First round, I think they had
Nick, your
Washington.
audio's is kind of messing up. So let's
Can you hear
pause
me?
the host to get his audio together.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I hear. We'll sing some music in the background. Bring me a higher love. Bring me a higher love.
It's my mic. It's my mic.
You might have to turn your mic off and turn it back on.
Hold on. What about now?
I'm hearing D-Ron, are you hearing this struggle, or is it just my phone is hearing it like that?
No, I'm clear on my end. I don't hear anything.
So yours, it might be my phone that's acting weird. So, but can you guys hear me clearly?
Yeah, I can hear you good.
It's a little. It ain't choppy, but I can hear you.
Hang on. Let me leave the room, then come back in. What about that?
That'll work.
All right.
Yeah, I think the first round was Philadelphia and Washington. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was Philly and Washington because Washington won the 8th spot.
Yeah, Boston lost to
The
number
Nets.
2. Yeah, the Nets. Yeah.
But I seen that Washington thing going the way it was gonna go regardless because of how it went.
All
Oh
right, I'm
yeah,
back.
You get?
Yeah, I'm good. Everything sounds good. What did I
Uh,
miss?
and I was talking about the first series, the Washington and Philadelphia first round. I was saying
Yeah,
that
that
it went the way that it was gonna go. That one was
yeah. Washington. The only reason Washington's in there because you have to have 8 teams qualify for the playoffs, and
they want to play in.
yeah, but I mean they finished eighth anyway, so even under the old circumstances, they still would have been in because our Hornets collapsed at the end of the season. But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah,
Uh, Washington, they don't defend for one thing. They got a killer backcourt and nothing else. But that series came and it went, and I have no commentary for that series.
yeah. That was a given, as they say. It
The
was like,
same with the Nets and the Celtics. The
yeah,
Celtics, man, I hate to see Kemba Walker's knee like that. It's reminding me a lot of Brandon Roy, except of course he got to play longer than Brandon Roy. But that knee is not going to get any better. That thing's bone on bone
yeah.
than
He done. I mean, I hate to say it, he had, his career, and I hate to say he wasted his career in Charlotte, but
what he
he
did.
played he played better years in Charlotte, and now they have opportunity to go somewhere where he can be an asset to a team. He's not able to do that, but
Hey, but
we're hearing,
he got $150 million, so he's straight. The
yeah,
thing about it, that contract is still there, so it's gonna be hard to deal him. I think
yeah,
they're stuck with him, so they're trying to trade it, but nobody ain't gonna take that deal.
37 million, 37 million with a liability as he is with that knee. Nah,
Yeah, and I just hate to see that, man, because what bothered me is that you got a lot of Hornets fans like and see he wasn't that good, so we were right. I'm like, no, that's not the case. He was great here in Charlotte. We didn't have the supporting cast. His knees have gone bad now, so that's not a fair comparison. And also, this even goes back to the very first one I did on here with you, Nick and D-Ron,
yeah,
about Jason Tatum being a superstar. Jason Tatum's a very good player. Jason Tatum is a Robin. He is Scottie Pippen. I'm not talking about his game, but I'm talking about as far as his role.
bro.
He
yeah.
he is a Scottie Pippen to whoever the man is. He's not the man. Jalen Brown is also a good complementary player. They got two Robins in an aging Kemba Walker. Um, and and Brand Stevens, number one, he's been fired. This dude got promoted to an executive position. Danny Ainge's old position, and I'm like, I don't even know where to start with that.
I thought it was fire. I'm not even gonna lie to you guys about that, man. I mean, I like he's gone, and like to
I
get
did
promoted,
too.
basically,
He got promoted.
he got promoted.
Yep, but
Thank you, Kyrie.
and I don't want to go down a particular road on this, but
With
it,
here,
even in the real world, like in our workspaces and stuff like that, that kind of thing happens, and it just looks all too familiar. And I'll leave it at that.
oh, I know. That's why I say that just sound like deja vu. I've seen it too many times.
Yeah,
Right.
just like how does this man even still have his job? And not only does he have his job, he gets promoted. That's must be nice. I'll leave it at that. That team is headed in a bad direction, and
Absolutely.
they might be soon where they might have to go in tank mode. Because the thing is not those are going to be some contracts. Did Tatum sign an extension like within the last couple of years?
I think he did like not that we call it mid level. He did like the extension where
Mhm.
it's probably like what 2-3 years.
Gotcha. And what about Jalen Brown?
I
What's the
think
status?
I think he's in the same boat as well. I think that's
Yeah,
why they were able to do Kimba.
yeah. Here's the thing: one of them gonna have to go. You're not gonna supermax both of them guys,
Oh yeah,
and I don't think
So
either one of them are worth it. So the thing is, with Jalen Brown and Jason Tatum there, you got pieces for a free agent destination if you can move Walker's contract. But that's
that's the thing. If somebody's willing to take it at
yeah,
this point in his career.
they're in a tough situation unless they just release him and bite the bullet, and that's still
that's,
that's
I mean, you see how I heard the Hornets releasing 25 million. They have to split that over years.
yeah, that's and especially as hefty and just only going. just 2 years into that contract. They're in a bad situation. I don't think
And then the only thing they can really do at this point now is they're gonna have to get rid of either Tatum or Brown to even get something
Brown to be the one to go. I think they'll
close.
keep Tatum.
They keep
I think
Tatum.
I think both of them are equals, but Brown is a little bit more alpha than I mean Tatum is a little bit more alpha than Brown.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Tatum will be more of a player that can get somebody to come play along with him versus a Brown. And
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, Brown is an offensive punch you just plug in, but he's not the guy that makes a move. Tatum was more the one that makes a move.
yeah, so he'd be more of the attraction than Brown would be. So I would say Brown would probably be more. Now, if they move Brown, maybe with Kimba, it might could work.
Yeah, 'cause somebody might take Kim's contract just so they can get Brown too.
But that's still a lot of. I mean, I don't know. Like again, I don't think Brown's contract is like a healthy contract where either it might be aspiring, where somebody might be willing to take that risk.
But see, then you gotta look at it at this point too. Minus them, you still got to figure out Marcus Smart might not be there long. They're probably gonna nix him eventually.
Yeah, but Marcus Smart. I mean, nothing against Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart. Remind me of one of those '90s New York Knicks, Miami Heat back in those rivals, those gritty '90s old school guys who get in your face. I like him. He's a Mr. Nasty. He does all the dirty work type thing.
Yeah.
But better than a Chris Childs, but on that same mold of like having the Knicks had Chris Childs and guys like that, those guys that would get into it with you, that guy that didn't mind doing the dirty work. He's one of those guys, one of the tough guys, kind of like under that poor man's Rajon Rondo, not as far as skill wise, but I'm talking about as far as mentality. He's an old school guy, but he's not a guy that's gonna move the needle as far as like, oh my God, what are we gonna do about Marcus? This one looks like I'm gonna sound like Ivan Drago. If he leaves, he leaves.
Yeah. I mean, they're gonna have to. I feel like you said, they're gonna have to tank eventually. They're gonna have to start tanking.
But they got some players that people will want. I mean, they definitely got.
I say that.
I'll take Jaylen Brown down here in Charlotte to be two guard.
I honestly was about to say that he would probably be a good piece to go along with Ball right now in the two. And you get the speed, you get the height, and you definitely create a mismatch because you can't guard 2, 6, 7 plus guards.
And Jalen's only about 23 or 24. Jalen's not old because he only went 1 year at California.
Yeah, he's the one and done too. So
yeah, he played at California, I think, 1 year.
Yeah. So I mean, I would say Boston might well want to take Gordon Hayward back. Who knows? I'm just wishing right now, but I'm just saying. But I think he would be a better complement in the lineup with not having a Gordon Hayward, which is injury prone.
And Gordon's good when he plays. The key is the when he plays.
He's good, but who's to say if he would have stayed healthy, what would the Hornets be? Would they have had to play in that playing game?
Probably not. It probably would have been like 6 seed or something like that, at least.
Yeah. I think they would have maybe been between the 4th and 6th. Maybe, like I said, 5th. I would have gave them that. But definitely been a tough 5. Because you wouldn't want to play them every night, back to back, kind of in a series. But it's going to be hard, man. Boston, I think, they're in a position where they got to do some thinking real fast.
Yeah. Because you could potentially wait too long and lose one of them just by free agency.
Oh, yeah.
Potentially. You can actually lose one of them by free agency.
I'm sure the Knicks are going to be probably calling the Knicks need some shooting. That goes into their series and why they lost to the Hawks. Julius Randle had a great regular season, but he didn't look like he was the franchise player when the postseason came along. It looked like when you double him and force him to put it on his shoulders, and without any shooters surrounding him, it didn't work out. They got to get the space the floor. They had poor spacing. They're one of the worst 3-point shooting teams in the league. They got to get a shooter in there.
Yeah,
the New York Knicks started to look like a former, not an old image, but a few years back image of themselves in that series. To me, personally, I thought it was going to be a better series than what it was. But
I did
clearly
too.
Atlanta dominated that whole series.
Atlanta is probably one of the team this year where I would say with injuries they were struggling in the beginning of the year and through the year. Now they pretty much are healthy. They got Gallinari back. They made a couple of trades too. I think.
I think
Uh,
the last trade that I can't
I
remember
think,
them
I
since
think they
that
did
Rondo
Rondo.
trade.
Was Rondo with them? Was Rondo?
Yeah, yeah, Rondo got traded to the Clippers. I can't
Yeah,
think what
sure
they got
did. They
traded
signed
to.
him their free agents and they traded him to the Clippers. But when it come down to it, their star player just
Trade. Yeah.
outplayed. Yeah, and they just outplayed them. I mean, nothing more, nothing less. The Knicks
Yeah.
just need some floor spacing, need some shooters. So we'll see what they do. Maybe they should go after a guy like Doug McDermott. Just sometime about role playing shooters, just to space their floor. Maybe a guy like Seth Curry, guys like that who aren't going to be that pricey, but can be role players who can just give you floor space and that'll help them out a ton. So we'll see what happens there. But there's really not much to say on that one. That was another series that,
Milwaukee and Miami.
yeah, that's another example when you ain't in the bubble how things can change. And then of course you have Drew Holiday and the guy from the Rockets, guys like PJ Tucker and stuff there now too. They just were the better team, and a lot of that came down to that first game. I thought Milwaukee was going to lose that first game, and I think a lot of this is psychological. Had Milwaukee lost that first game and it went into overtime or double overtime, which it looked like they were going to do, that whole series may have gone differently because it could have been a mental thing where it'd have been like deja vu. But once they got their first game under their belt, they got their confidence in their bearing, and they blew them away. That wasn't even much of a series. The Miami Heat looked like they were supposed to look like. Jimmy Butler's a good player, but he's not a franchise player. And last year was a fluke, and it showed.
We're gonna go into a different. I'm gonna do a hot take segment. It's something I want to jump before I get into the second round of predictions. I want to get into this because I just want to get y'all opinion on it. And you probably already know where I'm going with it. So I know y'all guys are
You're fine.
boxing. You into boxing pretty much, or you have some sort of knowledge of boxing.
I'm not into it like that, but I mean, I keep up with it from a micro perspective. I mean, from a macro perspective, I keep up with it, but not from a micro perspective.
And I just want to say that if people thought that fight Sunday was the greatest fight they ever seen in their lives, I just want to tell them they smoking crack.
First of all, even with that, I'm not trying to be funny, nothing, but I don't even think we should even dignify those whole things, even with even commentary. The reason I say that, those are nothing but exhibition money grabs. They're not even real fights.
Yeah.
It's almost like the celebrity charity type stuff, which is basically what it is. And any of that Jake Paul, Nate Robinson, I know he wasn't there the other night, but any of that kind of stuff where you got Chad Johnson, Nate Robinson, and people like that boxing in those exhibition charity things, that's not real boxing. That's more of an entertainment. That's more of one of those entertainment celebrity crossover charity type exhibition events. And the fact that Mayweather even participated in it, that was clearly just a money grab. And I think they got him they try to legitimize it just by having a renowned, legit boxer there. But
Yeah.
I don't even want to dig. I thought you get ready to talk about Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury 3, which is
Oh yeah, I'm gonna talk about that too.
but which is real boxing. But I'm not being funny. If you two want to go ahead and talk about that, that's fine. But I'm not even going to dignify that exhibition mess with any competitor.
I think it was only actually one real boxing match on that card that night, and
I
that
think
was
the one right after the Chad Johnson fight, I would give that a legitimate say in a fight. The rest of it, 49.99, even though it wasn't a normal pay-per-view, people got robbed.
they did.
I'm glad I have something that doesn't require me to pay for it. I'm leaving it at that. So
Yeah, we'll just leave it at that.
yeah, yeah. But I wasn't pleased at all. Like I said, ain't much I can say about it. That I'm just glad I didn't waste my money. I hate it for others who did, but
But when it comes to Mayweather fights and stuff like that, even in his real fights, Mayweather's always been a tactician, more of a defensive guy. He's
Yeah,
never been that
a
flashy,
brawl.
knock you out kind of
Yeah,
guy.
yeah.
He's always been he's when it comes to his craft, he's a master strategist, meaning that he's technically sound doing what's necessary for him to win, which is why he's never lost, and which has also allowed him to make so much money. So in something that's not going to count anyway, he just did enough to say that he met the obligation, and he met the obligation just to get the money. He didn't exert. It didn't appear. I didn't watch it, but from what I saw, it didn't appear that he exerted his full energy and effort for that because he knew it didn't require his full energy and effort. All he had to do was do the bare minimum, and he would still not be embarrassed, and still, if there was a score kept, that would have been declared the victor. So he kind of took the same strategy he used in his real fights with just less effort and less and the less exertion of energy, and still kind of use the same concept just to get a payday. So yeah, you could say that people got robbed, but at the end of the day, I don't see why they were expecting anything exciting. It's just I think people got caught up in the name recognition of the people who are involved. Chad Johnson's always been known to be a character. Was a very good NFL receiver, so he has name recognition. This Jake Paul guy, I don't know what he's famous for, but he seems to be a big name swirling around the internet. So there's name recognition and sensationalism surrounding him. And then when you take one of the all-time greats with the Mayweather there and put him on the same card with those other guys, it's a lot of hype and name recognition flowing around, and a lot of fickle fans kind of get caught up in the hype and name recognition, and end up spending their money on something that they should have known all along wasn't going to be worth what they spent on
Well, so now let's get into the wild the Fury
it versus
Wilder.
Wilder.
Yeah, let's get into that. I'm probably in my well, this is my expectations again. I see the same thing happening again.
I don't, but go ahead.
In my opinion, I, I see the same thing happening again. If he come out there sleep like he did last time and get
I
the
think.
bell,
Go ahead, D-Ron.
I'll say is this. I'm gonna say this. I'm 50-50 on it. If he ain't changed any regimen in his training, it's gonna happen again.
it's gonna happen again. That's what I
But
was saying.
I mean,
I
but
disagree. I disagree with that because sometimes I think I'm not. I don't think this is scripted by any means. I'm not saying that, but sometimes the way these things roll, it kind of feels the way. You got to realize the first time they went, it was a no contest, but most people's unofficial scorecards had Wilder winning.
yeah,
Wilder even
Wilder he won that fight. I'll give
Right,
him that
yeah, the
credit.
first one, yeah,
right,
yeah,
right. But I'm talking about, but as far as officially, I'm talking about officially, it was considered like a no contest or a draw, or whatever it was. But
Yeah,
but
yeah.
most but the general public felt like Wilder won based on most unofficial scoring accounts. People felt like that should have been a victory for Wilder. So and it's the same Wilder that has whatever training regimen he has, and that's the one where he even knocked Tyson Fury down. Just Fury beat the 10 count. So it's not like he can't swing with him. And the second one, I think it's one of those just the way the ball bounces. You know how a team gets blown out by 30 points sometimes in a playoff game, but it doesn't
Yeah.
mean they're bad. They just had a night where they got blown out, but then they come back the next game and ready to go. I think it's one of those things when he got his eardrum in there. I think his equilibrium was knocked off, and when he got the East bust, he was better. He was fighting from behind ever since then. I think in the third one, I think Wilder's going to win. I think it's going to be draw the first time, just like draw the first time, lost the second time, then win the third time. Then that creates an opportunity for a rubber match in a fourth fight. So that I think some of it has money grab in it because you can set up a fourth one if Wilder wins. So and I think they will. I'm not trying to holler conspiracy or script or anything, but it just seemed like these things bounce this way. I think Wilder wins, and then we even get a fourth fight.
Like I said, and and Cuz said, if he ain't changed that regimen, I see that happening again. But like you said, you can't have a
money.
bad night and bounce back. It could be a good fight this third fight. It could be a great fight.
Yeah, because it's the same regimen that he had when in the first meeting when most people thought that he would have won. I mean, thought that he won even though it's declared a draw. So it's not like he's a different person. It's just that the next time it just didn't go his way. That
It didn't go. Yeah, he
yeah, I'm about
caught
to
him
say
up. He
this
caught
the
him.
first this the first loss of the man's career. It happens. That doesn't mean that all of a sudden he forgot how to box. I don't think he's Ronda Rousey where he's just gonna just go into a tank. I don't think he's like that.
No,
Nah, nah.
I'm not saying that. I would say this like with him. I'm not saying that was his first loss, but also let's say who has he really fought prior to that fault? Those fights, rather. Let me say that.
I think Ortiz, he fought before. I think Ortiz was good.
Yeah, he's
Or
pretty
even
good.
Which thing,
I
Joshua,
agree
like
like
the
with
thing about it, Ortiz was leading him in most scorecards. The only reason he beat Ortiz is because he was able to get a seventh round knockout on him.
knockout. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, he threw that power shot, which
Yeah.
this where he relies on a lot. Instead
it.
of I mean, he beat Joshua. They fought too, right? If I ain't mistaken, he fought. Did he fight Joshua once?
I remember
Who?
he fought him one time. I don't know if he fought him twice.
No, he
And
fought
when
him once.
and the thing is, when you talk about the heavyweight division, when you say, well, who has he fought? It's not like we got Evander Holyfield, Mike Tyson, and all them, Rick Bowe and all them running through the tunnels. Well, I mean, it's not like you got Tommy, the guy that had AIDS, Tommy, whatever his name was. You ain't got
Again,
I can't think of the guy's last name, but you know what I'm talking about.
the Rocky guy.
Nah, the guy, he died of AIDS like in
He fought.
2006.
He was in the Rocky movie.
Yeah. He's Tommy
Tommy
Morris.
Lister or something like that. Anyway, but my point is, and then he lied and said he didn't have AIDS anymore. No, but that's neither here nor there. But you don't have like a slew of guys like that in the division anyway. So just in general, I don't know where the Klitschko brothers are right now, but it's not like you have a slew of these headlining opponents. When you think of the heavyweight division, the two names you think of are Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder.
Yeah, right now, yeah.
That's kind of like to the point I'm saying. It's like it's really not nobody there. So for that, that's why I say it's not like with them probably splitting up the way it is. It's kind of where he's definitely probably going to be more expected to win this fight. Which I can say, if he, I'm not saying if he trains the same way he trained the last fight, he's going to lose. But he definitely needs to go into the fight a little bit more prepared. I think more on the mental aspect of it. And if he's more prepared there, I think it'll be a different outcome. I think he's not going to go in and taking the light. I think he went in war with the big head the last time too. I would say that much.
Yeah, I still think when he took that shot to his ear and his eardrum ruptured, I think when that happened, he was off the rest of that. Because
Yeah,
when I think his equilibrium was off, and I'm not making an excuse, I'm just pointing out a reality. I think when he busted his eardrum early in the early rounds, he was done for because he could from that point on he could barely stand. That's why his manager threw the towel in. It's like they had to save him from himself.
That's
yeah.
true. Yeah.
'Cause he appeared like disoriented, off balance. From that point on, when his ear started bleeding, he seemed off the rest of that fight.
Yeah, he was off. I mean, like I said, he took a shot. Like I said, bad. It's bad not for anyone. But
I just think that it's going to come out with since you had a draw the first one, then you had one win in the second one. I feel like they're going to even it up, draw, win, win, and then they can determine if they want to even do a fourth fight and make more money off of it.
yeah,
I,
I
I,
think it's more of a money thing. I'll say it that way.
yeah, and if I put it like this, and if nobody gets knocked out and it goes a full 12 rounds, I think the judges would declare Wilder the winner no matter what, just so you can have that even
Even it
slate,
out.
and then that way promoters can promote and make even more money. If nobody knocks anybody out, there's no knockout or TKO, and it goes to a decision. If it's close at all, I think the judges will go Wilder this time.
Well, these two have to carry the torch for the heavyweight division because right now every boxer now is in that smaller class. There's more smaller class boxers fighting now than the heavyweight. Used to be more heavyweights. I
Yeah,
felt
like
like
I can't stand when you got middleweights and welterweights stuff headlining pay-per-views. I can't stand that.
they need that heavyweight, that main event, Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield type.
Right?
That
It's just like this. If I watch WWF pay-per-view, I'm not wanting to see Tonka Michinoku take
Oh,
on
Batista.
T.J. Perkins for the main event at WrestleMania. I want to see The Rock versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. I want to see I want to see Shawn Michaels versus Bret the Hitman Hart. I'm not wanting to see. I'm wanting to see Hulk Hogan versus Randy Savage. I'm not wanting to see the cruiserweight division,
Rey
Psychosis versus
Mysterio and Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero.
La
right
Parka.
for the main event. Right.
La Parka.
Yeah, or Psychosis versus Guerrero. And so that's not the main event of Starcade. When you're looking at the main event of Starcade, you want to see Ric Flair versus Ricky the Dragon Steamboat or something. You're not wanting to. You're not
Not the
wanting.
whole LWO. We don't want to see the whole LWO.
Yeah, you're not wanting to see La Parker versus Jushin Thunder Liger.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
Okay. I know that would be funny though. But okay. Nah, but I agree with you though. If somebody's gonna win that fight, and that's probably gonna lead to that fourth fight, which is gonna be epic as well. Because like I said, the heavyweight division is right now in boxing. WBC is not there. It's about extinct. I think the last, honestly, I can remember the last champion. If in my knowledge, I'm not saying it's probably been more champions, but Lennox Lewis was probably the last heavyweight champion that I can actually remember after Mike Tyson and Evander left.
Yeah, well,
So
see, the issue with that is when the Klitschko brothers and stuff were holding world titles. Most
Yeah,
of those fights were over in Europe.
overseas. Yeah,
yeah,
Right, so the fights weren't being held here, and they were against competitors over there too. So you weren't. It's like
yeah,
the belts went on a hiatus. It's like it's almost like when two rival schools play, and one has a bell or something they play for, a victory bell or something like that, and the victory bell's been with one school for 10 years because they hadn't played in 5 years, and or something like that. It's kind of like
yeah,
that. It's like they took the belts and ran with them. So and they had them for so many years away from this country, and so North America hadn't had that many heavyweight title bouts until the belts were brought back here. So I think that had a lot to do with it. And I think boxing kind of was UFC was
well,
kind
I would say UFC is kind of the transformation
of combat sports. Yes,
yeah.
and I think when it comes to pay-per-view stuff for a while, UFC was kind of taking over the forefront of combat sports, while boxing was taking the back seat, especially when those heavyweight titles were sitting overseas. Then you got to realize even the guys like you don't have your Mike Tyson, you don't have your Lennox Lewis's. Even when you go down a class, you don't even have your Roy Jones Juniors and your Winky Wrights and people like that anymore. You don't even have that. I'm talking about even in the classes below there. So when like the names and stuff that we once knew to be those big names, you don't even have those names there. So now it's like you're even trying to know who's out there. Whereas with UFC, even when you had Ronda Rousey, a woman, you still had this female sensation. You had names, even coming up with the pioneers like Chuck Liddell and the Rampage Jackson, those guys. Those guys kind of elevated UFC to where UFC is now.
Yeah, they did.
Dan to be Silver in the old days, the pioneers of UFC before Dana White got it. I'd be remiss if not to give Ken Shamrock and Dan to be Silver credit. That's
I'm about to say
the
Ken
pioneers
Shamrock
of
has to get
UFC.
some kind of.
yeah, because without them, there is no UFC. So always respect the pioneers. That's like saying that I love hip hop and not giving the Sugar Hill Gang people like that credit. So shout out to those legends. But go ahead, Nick.
All right, let's bring it back in. Let's get some of these second round predictions. I'm gonna start on the East. We got Philadelphia and Atlanta. What's your take on this series right now?
I mean, Philadelphia should win the series. They should. I
If
can't
Atlanta,
guarantee. I can't guarantee you anything. I mean, they just lost game one in their building. They came back and tied it up. They're going down to Atlanta for 2 games. They better win that game, that first game in Atlanta, to take a 2-1 lead. They'll be okay.
Yeah, they have to get one in Atlanta. I would say if they win in Atlanta, they got it. If they don't, that's
Atlanta
it.
gonna take that series, yeah.
It's one of those where it's not Atlanta. If Atlanta take care of home and go 3-1, of course I would like the chances, but most of the time that doesn't happen. A lot of times that team still game one. What I feel like is going to happen, Philadelphia's going to take the 2-1 lead, and then Atlanta's going to come back and tie it up 2-2, and then Philadelphia's going to go back home and go 3-2, and then they'll close out a hard fought game in Atlanta to win it in 6. Is probably what happened. That's usually how this thing goes, but we'll see.
Yeah, you got to play to the end of the fourth quarter or whatever, regulation. But
Unless Joel, but the way Joel Embiid falls and stuff, I mean, that's the X factor. That dude, him and Anthony Davis will fall like a shot deer in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
got to save them knees.
So I don't.
On that back.
Yeah.
Joel Embiid is on borrowed time for his career wise, as far as being a great player.
Oh yeah, he definitely is like a bit. Well, I can say a bit, but he definitely like. We thought you were gonna be another Greg Odom, and then he just came out of nowhere and just stayed consistent. I mean, he definitely has had his points where he haven't probably played in a couple games, but when he comes to play. So
yeah, so I still think Philadelphia will pull that series off.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a 4-3. End up being 4-3.
Okay, you think go 7?
I think it's gonna go 7.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I take 7 too, but I like the underdog, and I probably would go with Atlanta. Just I like their chances.
Ooh, that'd be rough on Doc.
I like their chances.
Oh,
I really do like their
that's
chances.
that was his team.
If they lose that series, Ben Simmons better be looking out. His name will be on the block.
It should have been on the block.
But it will be on the block. If they lose that series, Ben Simmons' name will be on the block.
It should have been on the block, Tyree. I honestly think Ben Simmons should have been on the block 3 years ago.
Overrated player, very good player, but this was a guy that's supposed to be like the next LeBron James. He's a good player, but he ain't on that level.
He never developed a shot, and that's going to be his downfall.
Yeah, I mean, not even any semblance of. And he's so arrogant. He's a guy that doesn't even. He comes off like he doesn't even feel like he needs to get better. It's like he's so arrogant about it too. Like when you bring it up to him, he said, "Well, I'm still an all-star." I'm like, ugh. I didn't even like what he said about Donovan Mitchell that time when they were asking about their rookie of the year race and how close that was. And when they had a game against Utah, and he said it wasn't even an effing race. Like he always said stuff like that. He hasn't done enough in this league to be so arrogant.
Donovan Mitchell has done a lot more than Ben Simmons. That's bar none. Donovan Mitchell has probably improved every year since he's been in the league.
And who would not say that he wasn't going to be a good player? Let me say that first. But who would think that he would be the player he is? They say that. I mean, again,
coming out of where did he come out? Louisville.
What college? Was it a big Louisville? Because if I'm not mistaken, he got drafted after our boy on the Hornets. He got drafted after Kentucky. Monk, right?
Yeah, Mitchell was like the like the 12th pick in the draft, something like that.
Yeah. So he was after Monk, which Clifford at all times actually made a good pick. He actually wanted Mitchell.
Yeah, but you said not. But when I hate when people do that when they say, "Well, he went after Monk," I said, "Yeah, but he went after all 11 guys that went before him too." So
yeah.
And so that means that we weren't the only team that passed up on him. I mean that 10 other teams
did too. Yeah,
didn't see that either. And then you could also say sometimes it could be the situation. Let's say had Donovan Mitchell got drafted by Charlotte, he probably would be in the same situation Malik Monk is in now.
That's true too. Because Clifford, I just don't think he's a good coach. I just put it out there on the record. He held back a lot of young players.
And I could barely hear you. But, and I think I'm doing that weird stuff, man.
Can you hear me?
That's my phone. I think is doing that because I'm here. It's weird. I don't know why my audio is doing this. Okay, I think we're good. Say something, Nick.
Yo.
Okay, I'm good. I'm good now.
Yeah. I think the Clifford situation, he's held back a lot of young players. I mean, I seen it in Charlotte. Maybe the exception of Kemba, but Kemba was like all they had at certain points. That was kind of consistent. But his first year or two with Monk, he definitely.
But what bothered me even more is that when Borrego got there, it's like Borrego just went out the way to bury him. You could just tell that Borrego just. Monk just wasn't. Borrego just wasn't a Monk guy. You could just tell that. And then finally, he had no choice but to play him. But at one point, it just seemed like you were going out the way to not play him.
Yeah.
Like you wanted to teach him a lesson or something like that. And I'm like he's too young for that. If Monk, I'm talking about Borrego's too young for that mentality. Monk could end up somewhere else. I'm not saying he'll be a superstar, but I can see him doing what Jordan Clarkson is doing.
Oh yeah, he
Yeah.
he gonna be balling. That's
Yeah.
why I say I don't hate the Hornet. I know this year they got to make a decision, probably definitely between him and Graham.
Oh, I
And
keep Monk and let Graham. I'll let Graham walk for a bag of potato chips. And I met Graham. I think Graham's a nice guy. He was nice when I met him. I met him at a hookah lounge actually. But I'll let him go for a bag of potato chips. I don't think he's. I think I think Graham or Harley be in a rotation of some other teams. I think his numbers are inflated because the minutes and opportunities he got here.
That's I can agree with that.
Because
yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean it's evident because of the situation like last year where they lost Kimba, and then Terry Rozier's kind of he came along and he wasn't bad, but far as Devontae played, people didn't expect him to play the way he did last year. Almost got him being MIP of last year's season, which I
yeah,
did.
a lot of that was volume shooting. He shot 38% from the field. A lot of that was because he was on the floor and actually getting to shoot, and that was a result of on a bad team, somebody got to shoot, somebody got to score.
Yeah,
So it's like it's kind of like the Michael Carter Williams thing. Like when Michael Carter Williams first came in the league, he put up good numbers, but you got to realize it's like well, somebody had to put the numbers up. You got
yeah,
12 guys on the team, somebody's going to be the leading scorer. So I mean, when you're putting up numbers on a horrific team, like when you average 16 points a game, a team went 10-72. I mean, it's kind of hard for me to be impressed by those numbers. I'm like, yeah, but you went 10-72.
72. It
Yeah,
didn't
that
show
really
on
happened. Philadelphia,
the
one of
wins
those
and
years,
losses.
they went 10-72. I'm
yeah. They
dead
went
serious.
10 year, I think, with Michael Carter. Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
rookie year.
they went.
He
I'm
got
gonna say that one
he
more
got a
time.
rookie
They
year.
went 10-72.
And he got rookie of the year.
Yep, yeah. So, and we had Mike Carter Williams in Charlotte for like a year, I think. But it kind of goes back to that. I think if Graham was on another team, I'm not saying he wouldn't be in the rotation, but he wouldn't be a guy averaging 14 to 15 points a game. He'd be a guy averaging 6 to 8 points a game coming off the bench somewhere. Not really a key guy like that. But his numbers were inflated because of what his role was here in Charlotte. I would keep Monk over Graham, but I think Monk has the higher upside. Monk is really streaky, and Monk is a guy when he gets hot, he can have 40-point games.
Oh yeah, he showed it. He showed a glimpse of it this year before he went out for I think it might have been ankle or toe.
When everybody had ankle injury at the same time.
Yeah,
So I mean, I think Monk is the one I'll keep. I think he has the higher upside. If Borrego can take the chains off of him and just let him rip, just let him loose. I wouldn't mind Monk just being a starting backcourt ball. You got the great passer and ball handler, then you got the sharpshooter on the other side.
I think he'd be a perfect fit at too. Honestly, I mean, he get off play the two a little bit. I mean, he's
Yeah,
not a big conventional two guard, but he has the hops and
yeah,
definitely got
he's 6'4" or something like that. 6'3",
yeah
6'4". What is it?
6'3.5". He's not a full 6'4".
Okay.
Yeah, but he can shoot. I mean, like I said, if he given the opportunity, if he gets the minutes and the persistent play, he's going to be a threat. I mean,
Or you could use him like a J.R. Smith in his prime, or just let him come off the bench and just assassinate.
yeah, just be a deadly, just sharpshooter, which he can be. I mean, which I think either way, he could be either a good two guard or come off the bench and be a 6 man. I think he's a good 6 man candidate if he gets the right
Yeah,
chance.
he's been grossly misused in his career so far,
Yeah,
and a lot of it just been because of the coach's ego.
yeah, I think it is. I mean, I don't know because of past issues with substance or just I don't know. I mean, I'm not in the locker room, so I don't know his mentality, but I mean, it's something they feel, which is again, it's not fair. I mean, he's a young guy, you know, so he's
He's
still trying to.
he's 23 now.
Yeah, he's still young, so a lot of stuff, coming from where he's coming from, he's a country boy from Arkansas, going to a big, D1 school, and then now from going from a year to a big D1, throwing him into the big leagues, he's gonna be still immature. You know what I mean? So
Nah, I agree with you. So, I mean, but I still don't like the coach that got there in Charlotte. I would love for Borrego to be gone. I don't think they're gonna. They exercised the option for the contract option on him, so he's gonna be there next year. He's one guy that I want gone, but I feel like they're gonna stick it out with him. So
I
we'll
think
see
he got
how
to
they go.
prove it this year. I think if he don't make it this year, I think they're gonna. I think they're just saying, okay, we're gonna let you finish out your obligation. We give you the option to show what you show, what you think you. Well, I ain't gonna say you think, but he had flashes where he had made right moves and did certain things with the rotation, even though he was dealing with had to play with a small rotation. But now, if they give him the pieces in the offseason that he started crying about, and that doesn't change, then
If they
I,
don't make the playoffs next year, he's out of there.
yeah, he's gone.
Because like Jordan, when Jordan got spending a little bit of money now too, he's out of there.
Yeah, I don't think Jordan's gonna. I think he's gonna pull back off the. I think he's gonna let Mitch kind of do his thing, and
Because
and
we got pieces. You got
yeah,
nice core pieces. Hey, my phone just did something weird, but can everybody hear me?
yeah, I
Yeah,
can hear you.
Okay, my phone like flashed like lightning does. It was weird, but we have core pieces, so we'll see what happens. Was there another playoff series that we didn't go over?
New Jersey and I mean Brooklyn. I'm sorry, Brooklyn
I call
and
New Jersey all
Milwaukee.
the time too. Brooklyn and who?
Milwaukee.
Oh, for the second round preview.
Yeah,
Brooklyn.
That one's gotten off to a pretty bad start. Aren't they playing right now?
I think so.
I think
What's
they are.
score?
Everybody got a score
I
check.
expect Milwaukee to win tonight. You got to realize they got blown out by 30 the other game or 25, so or whatever.
Yeah,
Most times you get blown out like that when you come back home for your first game. I expect them to come out like gangbusters tonight and at least win tonight.
Yeah, at least
Everybody's been bashing out to Compo as well, so I expect him to have a big game tonight at home. I definitely, I would expect if Milwaukee got any pride at all, they're going to at least win tonight.
I'm about to see if I can pull something up now. I'm in the old garage.
All right,
Give me a
my
second.
I bet it
prediction,
burn up in that garage.
the prediction on for me on that series if
I
Milwaukee
mean, it's easy to
beat
predict the series when it's already too old. I mean, conventional wisdom, you would say that probably Brooklyn's going to win that series.
So they
What I
up now 49, 44.
that's
Third quarter,
that's
10
close.
10, the third quarter. And that's a low scoring game to be in the third quarter.
That's a little too close for my comfort when you're at home in a situation like that too. But
Yeah.
they need to. If they can win, I think they can win. If they can win this game, get it 2-1. They're going to be at home again. They got to get this thing to 2-2 and then take it from there. I would think that if they're truly a team that got championship aspirations, they should win both of their games at home. But I can't guarantee it. They need to win this one first. 49-44 in the third quarter. That's anybody's ball game. They don't need to be caught up in a nail biter going down the stretch because Brooklyn got sharpshooters. Even if
Right.
Harden's not playing, even guys like Joe Harris and stuff get hot. You got
Joe Harris and then
Durant himself.
Durant and Kyrie did one of those moves where he can definitely get hot and be unguardable.
Yeah, you don't want to be in a situation like that because even if you're playing good defense, like you said, he can get hot and shoot from wherever he's standing. You don't want to be in a tight game going down the stretch and some of them guys catching the rhythm. This is a game where they need to get some separation, pull away. If they find a way to win this and they got another one at home, they'll have their confidence up, and maybe they can win the next one tied up, and then we'll see where it goes from there. But just from the way it looks like Brooklyn's no matter what going to win that series. What I will say is people kind of get caught up in the blowout that happened the other night. That happens sometimes. It still wouldn't shock me if the series goes 7. I think
wouldn't stop me either.
I think Milwaukee got enough resolve. I remember when Milwaukee beat the crap out of Toronto 2 games in a row a couple of years ago, and
Yeah,
it was that same kind of talk. And Leonard all of a sudden got hot, got white hot. They won
Yeah.
both
that was
games.
it.
Toronto came back and won that game 5 in Milwaukee, then came back and closed it out in Toronto. So I mean, I'm not saying that's going to happen here, but my point is, you can't get caught up in the moment. Like the game one was reasonably competitive. Game two, they got blown out. That happens. It's they're coming back home for 2 games. They got to take care of their home court. If they can't take care of their home court, then they're not as good as I thought they were.
I see it going 5 or 6 games,
But
but
you like this?
Brooklyn.
Yeah, you're like they're gonna make quick work of them, which we'll see.
Yeah, I got 5 or 6 in it.
I'll say how this game. I would say if the outcome of this game is going to be kind of the real determining factor, like you said, it's too close for comfort to be home and have a 5 point lead. And it keeps going between 5 and 3 as we speak right now.
If they're not
But
careful, they're gonna
Kyrie
lose
just
this
hit a
game.
3 now, so they down by 2. So you know,
They're gonna fool around and lose this game if they're not careful. This is the game where you want to build up to 12 points at this point in the game.
yeah, it's a low scoring game. Like I said, it's a third quarter, 8 minutes. Both teams barely have 50. So I mean,
Yeah, but Brooklyn got more firepower than,
yeah, and that's my point. Like if they get hot, that's it.
Yeah,
they're gonna fool. If they go down 3-0, then you know it's over. They might even lose the next one. It might if they get swept, Budenholzer getting fired.
At this point,
I'm not saying I'm not. I like Budenholzer, but I'm just saying somebody's gonna be a casualty.
yeah, somebody's gonna be a scapegoat in this situation where we know the situation what's going on, but Giannis, I don't know.
He's only one guy. I think he gets an unfair shake because but to me, it's similar to when LeBron was in Cleveland the first time. I'm talking about what he's had to work with. Because you can argue that a guy like Middleton is in the same vein of a guy like Mo Williams. I'm talking about
Mo Williams or who was with them.
That's the point. Exactly.
Yeah.
My point exactly.
Yeah.
So Giannis has never had a legitimate second star with him at any point. It's been, and he's still people. I don't like when people rip into him like the guy who played with the Celtics, that bump center they had, Kendrick Perkins, when he was talking about he's not truly a number one and all that. I'm like, based on what? So the fact that he hasn't gotten him to the finals, so okay, Jokic hadn't gotten Denver to the finals, he's the league MVP, he's not a number one.
All I'm gonna say is go watch Kendrick Perkins blooper reel. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Everybody rips into number one. What this is? Giannis came to the league like in 14, 15, something like that. So
yeah, he was like a mid teen. Well, he was 14, 15.
He was 19 years old when he came to the league. Wasn't even expected to be a star. But in the years that he's emerged into a star, which you can say over the last 3 years, so when he won those back-to-back MVPs and all that, I'm not understanding why people are saying that he's not good. I don't get it. I'm like, what people say, well, he hasn't won a championship. I'm like, at this same stage in LeBron James's career, he hadn't won one either. LeBron and had to leave and create a super team to do it. But I don't. Even then, people were still saying that. I know he had his critics, but people were still declaring him the best player in the game, and he wasn't criticized to the level as Giannis is, where people were calling him a Robin and saying that he's not even a legit number one. When it was kind of a similar situation where they got teams where I'm not saying this Milwaukee team's a bad team, but when you're talking about trying to win a championship, I'm talking about what he's had. It's not like he's had stars around him or any other star with him, because I don't consider Middleton a star. I don't see why everyone is so upset like he's underachieving when I think he's the one that's elevated the team to what they actually are. Without him, they're nothing. So I don't get this whole thing that he doesn't get the job done type thing. I don't understand why everybody is so hard on him. That's what bothered me about the situation. When I think of even you can say even a Michael Jordan at this stage, Michael Jordan was in the 7th year when he won his first one. LeBron was in his 9th year when he won his first one. Shaquille O'Neal was in his 7th year when he won his first one. So this whole thing that when he hasn't won any championships there, I'm like, he's 25 years old in the prime of his career. Like, what's the problem? Like I think people just get caught up in the moment, and so they have to point fingers at someone. And then here's the thing: if he goes signs with someone that got 2 other star players, then everyone's going to be hard on like, oh, he's not a competitor. I'm like, he just be doing what everybody else has done. Kevin Durant never won one until he went to Golden State. So is Kevin Durant not a number one? He joined Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, who had already won one, with Curry, who's a back-to-back MVP, coming off a team, and they were coming off a year where they won 73 ball games. and he went and joined that team. He lost in the playoffs. And what year was Durant in? Durant came in at 06. What year
Yeah,
did he go to Golden State? 2017, 18?
17,
16,
yeah,
16, 17. He
16 or
went there
16.
16, 17. So it was his first year in the league. It was his ninth year in the league when he won his first one after he went to Golden State to join the super team. But nobody ever said that Kevin Durant wasn't a number one.
that's true.
So my point, so Giannis's shortcomings are no, and he had Russell Westbrook with him most of that time. Yeah, and I'm not even dealing with James Harden because James Harden hadn't become a superstar at that time. But my point is, he had Russell Westbrook with him at that time, who went on to win a league MVP 2 years later after Durant left. So my point is, Giannis's shortcomings are no more than any of these other guys like James, Durant, Jordan, or whoever, Shaq, or whoever's shortcomings at that stage in their career. But yet he's been singled out like he's far less. And to me, that's just being prisoner of the moment and just wanting. He's the new guy just to pile on, just like, oh, he's not any good. And based on that, Joel Embiid hasn't won a championship. They came in around the same year. Is Joel Embiid not a number one? Why are we not criticizing him? I know he's hurt a lot, but when he plays, he hasn't. He's never even been to a conference final. And
That's
he has
true.
Ben Simmons with him, who's an all-star himself. That's considered a stud. That's considered a loaded team, and he hasn't even gotten to a conference final. But nobody's criticized whether he's the number one option or not. So why is that? I call a spade a spade
I think it's the market.
Yeah,
because he plays in Milwaukee.
Oh yeah, I mean, if it's safe instance if he left. A lot of people want him to leave. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
Everybody
the
about
one.
going to Golden State. They just want him to leave that market. Just like they basically, I feel that's why LeBron left Cleveland. I just feel like they know, like the same point you're making. LeBron he basically carried Cleveland for 7 years, even from his rookie year until the first year he left Cleveland on his back. But like I said, we can't even think of nobody that played complimented with him that was almost of a level of Robin. Like you said, you had a Mo Williams, what's his name?
And Mo's a good player. Don't get me wrong, but you get my
But
point.
no. He's a good player, but he's not the star level. Like I said, a Batman to Robin couple. He didn't have that with
No.
him. You know, you had what's
yeah, Bears out, freaking
now yeah
Yeah, Antoine Jameson one of the years.
yeah
yeah,
Antoine Jameson 1 year. He had the guy, the big center,
Gal-
Zydrunas Augustus.
yeah,
Zalskis.
Zydrunas Augustus was a good center.
He was a good. I mean,
Yeah, he wasn't Shaq. No, he wasn't Shaq. He wasn't Alonzo Mourning. He wasn't Curry. But Zydrunas Augustus was still one of your better centers. But go ahead.
yeah, and that's the point. Like he had those players, but didn't have the player like Jordan had Pippen,
Right.
and that's
He didn't
probably
have,
what
yeah, he didn't have a Penny Hardaway or nothing like prime Penny Hardaway or nothing like that. I got
no, yeah, and that's the point. He never had a standout true guy that's like man, LeBron and what call it tough. It was just LeBron in Cleveland. That's all what it was. LeBron in
you.
Cleveland. So with Jordan, and it's the same way with Jordan until he got a Pippen. But now it's a different game going back from the 2000s to the 90s.
Yeah. And you know what I really think it is? I think people just don't like players who don't shoot threes.
Yeah, and it's a different game. Yeah,
He
and
doesn't shoot threes, and the media just don't like because they want everybody out there shooting threes.
yep. And like I said, it's a style of play. Giannis can actually have the ball and dribble and penetrate to the basket. He doesn't have to have his back necessarily to the goal, which he can, but he can decently handle the ball for a big man, get himself into the paint and score. And how many big men can really do
Yeah,
that with the ball in the
he
hand?
here's the thing about him. He handles the ball like a guard, but he plays actually like a power forward. So
Yeah,
it's one of
yeah,
those things where people look at his build and they think of a Kevin Durant, but his game and Kevin Durant's game are nothing even close to each other.
oh
Kevin
no, no.
Kevin Durant's more of is a smooth George Gervin like score, like just smooth finesse, just silky smooth offensive arsenal. Whereas Giannis is more of a brute, gritty, physical, more a bully ball, like a brute. Like he's more brute, head down, attack the basket. Whereas Durant's more of a silky smooth shooter slash scorer. But I think people want him to be like his game to be like Durant so bad. So when it's not, they just criticize him unfairly. And they want him to be something that he's not. They want him to be this guy standing out there shooting threes. That's not his game.
Nah, it's not. All right, to the Western Conference, we got Denver and the Suns.
The Suns are up to nothing. And with Denver, I mean, I know they've done well so far, but Jamal Murray's not there, so they get a pass. They're going to get a pass anyway. I feel like that's going to be a series that still might go 7 games, but I think Phoenix is going to win it.
I was thinking like 6, but yeah, Phoenix should win that.
Yeah, Phoenix,
Especially
I
without
think.
Jamal Murray.
Yeah, Phoenix is. I think they just Chris Paul just got them boys playing good, man. You know. Now
As
I
long
know
as
you
they
don't
don't
put.
pull a hamstring.
Now I do have a point that I want to bring up. I know you spoke about Tatum a lot. What about Devin Booker? Do you think he's there yet as a superstar?
No more. I think he's a good player. I think Chris Paul is what drives that team. If Chris Paul tore his ACL right now, they would lose the rest of the game in that series.
Okay.
Because Devin Booker would always put up numbers, but they weren't even sniffing the playoffs until Chris Paul got there. Chris Paul's a veteran leader who's got floor general. Because Booker's a guy they want him. They didn't even know if he was a 2 guard or a point guard. They're trying to figure out which one it is. He clearly can't. Not a general as a point guard. He can handle the ball, but he's clearly not a floor general. He's an offensive guy who wants to shoot and score. And by having Paul to be that true floor general, that allows him just to play off the ball freelance and score, and it allows him to play his role. But as far as putting it on his back as being that leader to put a team on his back, I don't see it. Everyone gets caught up in his numbers because he scored 70 points in the game. People forget that game he scored 70 points and they lost that game. That's the part that people don't want to talk about. He was kind of like an Anthony Davis at guard, and what I mean by that is he put up gaudy numbers year in and year out, just put up numbers, but they were losing most of those games. Just like when Davis was in New Orleans, I remember one game he had like 39 points and 23 rebounds and 8 blocks, and everyone was making a big deal about it. Then you look and you see they lost the game by 10 points. So I don't think so. To answer your question, no, I do not think Devin Booker's a superstar. I think Devin Booker's a very good offensive player.
Okay. And to our series that I think that's probably gonna go 7 games, Utah and the Clippers.
Michael Conley better get well, and he better get well soon.
Yeah.
Like he's out game 2. Donovan Mitchell had to score 40 again to get him over on that one. Sometimes though, when you barely win that game 1 like that, you come back and blow a team out in game 2. They got to take care of business in Utah because I feel like they're gonna lose both games at the Staples Center. And Michael Conley, to win the series, they got to have Michael. If they got Michael Conley, I think they can win that series probably in 7. If Michael Conley doesn't play in that series, then I kind of have my doubts.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I just think Clippers might be on borrowed time. I don't know. I didn't see the numbers. I mean, I'm sure both of them probably had a decent game. Kawhi and George Paul. But,
George Paul.
yeah, but I would say it's gonna have to be every night for them 2 guys to be hitting all cylinders. If one have an off night, that could be it. And that's 9 times out of 10 is gonna be Paul. He struggled for shooting in the playoffs, and he's been like that the last couple of years.
The thing is that was supposed to be the modern day Jordan and Pippen, but it looks more like Pippen and Pippen.
Yep, and that's the point.
Look like 2 Pippins. When that small forward 2 guard combination is supposed to be Jordan Pippen, like 2 excellent wing defenders who can create opportunities off defense. Kawhi being a great offense player with a great mid-range 20-foot range games. He's not athlete like Jordan was, of course, but as far as similar offensive repertoire, as far as how he gets his spot and how he shoots his 17-foot jumpers and stuff like that, similar in that sense. And with George being a great wing defender, comparable to a Pippen, more athletic defender, but a guy that can create off the break and off the turnovers and off his defense. That's a little bit Jordan Pippen, which is more like Pippen's Pippen. And to me, it comes down to mentality because the talent's there. But the Clippers is like, or do they want to reach down the side of the game? They have the talent to win a championship this year. Do they have the mentality for it? Don't let your coach. They took a big step back and step backwards when they made their head coach versus who they did. So I just gotta text Mr. Slaughter, fellas. I gotta respond to this.
But
Audio, does it sound like audio fading a little bit?
he said he had a message. I think.
Yeah, text came through, which but I've already responded to that, so we can carry on.
Yeah, I think the Clippers probably will, like you said, Mike Conley don't come back. I think the Clippers got that series. I think they can take it in 7. I see it going that far. I feel like they're gonna be playing game 7s all the way. If they get past this round, they're gonna play game 7s all the way up until the Western Finals.
If they get past this one.
If they get past this one, but I see them playing game 7s all the way up until the Western Finals.
Who would they match up with next? Would it be the Suns or would it be
I mean, it'd be the winner of the Suns and Nuggets. The winner, because only 2 series in each conference.
Yes.
So, Jazz, Clippers winner plays Suns and Nuggets winner. The winner of the Nuggets Suns would have home court over the Clippers regardless. But if Utah would have home court over either.
Yeah, they have home court regardless.
Yeah.
I don't know. The entire playoffs, even if they got to the NBA Finals, they have home court.
Yeah.
Basketball.
I just think if they meet up with the Suns, that might be a different story. The Clippers.
I would love for if that happened for Phoenix to win it, just for Chris Paul, former Clippers player, the player who basically put the Clippers franchise on the map. For the Clippers franchise that was a laughing stock for many, many, many years, even going back to the San Diego Clippers for many, many, many years, and not until his arrival there, they didn't become a consistent playoff team until he got there. And they've made playoffs probably from the time he got there, and even since he departed, they've been to the playoffs I think every year since his first year there. Whereas prior to then, they'd only been to the playoffs maybe like one time in a 20-something year span. So he was the one. If that franchise even goes on to win a championship, to me he was a pioneer of that franchise and deserves to have his jersey retired there because he was the one that got that franchise to relevance.
Yeah.
I
agree.
And he was the one that made Blake Griffin an All-Star.
Yep.
He did.
Made Andre Jordan an All-Star.
He did.
The reason that he doesn't have a championship is because he gets injured at the most inopportune times.
Yep.
He does.
He pulls a hamstring at the worst possible time. He strains a calf at the worst possible
time. It's like it's this bad karma just hits him like every time.
After what he did to Julius Hodge when he was in Wake Forest, and they were playing against NC State in that game back like in 03 or whatever, 04, or whatever year that was. I don't know if you guys remember when that happened, but NC State and Wake Forest were playing the game in Raleigh at what's now known as the PNC Arena, which was then known as the RBC Center, and he was running off a screen, and when Hodge came around him, he wound up and hit Hodge right in his middle region and tried to pretend like it was an accident, even though you can see him clearly wind up and do it. And the two teams played again a week later in the ACC tournament in Greensboro, and NC State ended up winning that game. But as far as liking him, I didn't like him at all during that time, and so sometimes I wonder, it's like, hey, that dirty stuff that you did then, did it all come back to the haunt him when he got to the league?
It possibly could have. I think it's just bad karma.
Yeah, he just even against the Lakers when he separated his shoulder or whatever. I'm like, good God, man! It's like he always get hurt when you need him most. You get hurt when you need him the most. I mean, jeez.
Yeah, maybe he'll pull through, and maybe some of this karma go away off of him. Maybe he won't.
I feel like this. You would have thought when he was traded from Houston that his opportunity to ever win a championship or be on a championship contender would be completely over, and now he's part of this Phoenix team and it's driven them to that level. If he's gonna win one, I mean, the time is now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would say that for sure. I mean, it's looking bright for him too. So I mean,
The time is now.
yeah,
Please, I want him to stay healthy. I want him to get it because a lot of people tried to be hard on him before. Oh, he's never been to a conference final and this and that. And I'm like, so I got tired of hearing that. So, hey, he got to a conference final with Houston. I still think had he not gotten hurt, Houston would have beaten Golden State. They were up 3-2. I'm not
yeah,
gonna go over the series again, but that was like, come on. It was right before the end of that game when it went up 3-2, and I'm like, really?
yeah. I mean, they had him on the ropes. I'll put it that way for sure.
Even in Game 7, they were up by 15, and they blew that lead. They had like
Yeah,
a lead in Game 6, and he didn't even play in Game 6, but they were up 3 games to 2. They had him. They had him, and it just and then he
get him
missed
off
Game
the hook.
6. He was limping in Game 7, and I'm
yeah,
like, ugh. And I'm like, I just want him to get to a postseason healthy and then see what he can do. I love for him to get to the NBA Finals. I would love for them to win. I'm not a Phoenix Suns fan, but I still, since they beat the Lakers, I mean, and Chris Paul's a guy that one of the all-time greats, one of the greatest point guards of all time. I think that this would this would be perfect for him to win a championship this year. I don't think he's going to sign back with Phoenix anyway. He already declined his player option. I don't think they're going to give him $40 million a year or anything at his age. But so I would like for him to at least win that championship this year. Then wherever he goes next year, he may go. He may go somewhere else next year. I wouldn't be surprised if they won it this year. If he went back to New Orleans and maybe made them better and went back home and joined Zion and made him look good.
Yeah, that possibly could happen.
We'll see.
Yeah. Well, fellas, we at the hour and 31 minute mark. Any of y'all got any final thoughts, man?
I really don't, man. I'm just gonna see how these things play out. Like I said, Lakers are not in it anymore. Hornets weren't in it in the first place, but I'm
yeah,
gonna still watch and be excited, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I
yeah.
agree.
I just think it's going for me. I browse through it, skim through it, but I'm probably gonna get more into it when it comes to Western Eastern Conference Finals. And
Hey, we'll definitely have another segment run for that around that period of time when it gets probably like right before it starts, I would say.
Yep, yep.
update. Brooklyn's up 165-64 with 46 seconds left in the third quarter.
They're gonna win the game too, and they're gonna sweep this dang on series, probably. Wow. Well, I'll put it like this: right now, it looks like it's heading in that direction. We'll see how the
Yeah.
game and the rest of the series plays out.
Right. Let's see, my final thoughts. Yeah. Mm, it's gonna be an interesting season, but postseason now that your defending champions are gone, and
Yeah, the
the
good
East
news
is
is that after this year and the draft, we go back to our regular, normal type setting. 82, assuming we go back to the 82 games, arena full, and it's just like we can just go back to basketball. You know it.
yeah.
Hopefully they don't bring. I don't know if they already instituted it for next year. Hopefully they don't do this playing stuff.
It was only approved for 1 year, but I'm like you. I'm hoping they don't leave that where it's at.
Yeah, I
I got
don't
a
think.
weird feeling they're gonna probably keep it in there for the simple fact that, oh yeah, we give the 10th seed a chance to get a little marbles in, or
I was saying like, if you play 82 games and you didn't win enough games to get in, then
That's my point.
I'm not understanding why we're gonna give you another chance.
that's true.
But
I agree with
we'll
that.
take
Like
that for another day.
even with the Hornets in it this year, even though they failed a 10, I mean it was good to kind of see them kind of make a push to show what they got. But end of the day, like it was no good. It would just waste their time and time where you could have went ahead and started a series. Or maybe would they started with 3 days after the playing games? Well, like that early that week, and then Friday they was doing the playing games, right?
Yeah, I think something like that.
Yeah. So
Yeah, but
yeah, for me, you
hopefully
putting 18. But go
hopefully
ahead.
we'll go back to the top 8 teams making it, and if you finish in top 8, you get in. If you didn't, you don't. And
Yeah, and I think you putting 8 team at risk too. Or the teams that are trying to get into the last spot, you making them more tired to play the 1 seed.
Yeah. But hopefully, like I said, I'm ready to get through this season and get back to a normal structured season on a normal schedule, and then we'll see where things go from there.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll
Hopefully
definitely
football be
see.
the same way. Well, I think football for sure is. So hopefully I can get to check out some games this year in person.
Yep, yep. I'm sure, Nick, when as we'll get closer to the fall or whatever, we'll definitely be having some discussions on that.
Oh yeah, we definitely, most definitely, man. We definitely gonna have those discussions. That's
But
gonna
I'm
be.
about to. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, babe, fellas, man, I enjoyed it. I'm about to go
Oh
ahead
yeah.
and sign on off, man, and y'all be cool until next time.
Oh
All right.
yeah, man. And but
Y'all be safe.
my
You too.
public service announcement: do not let your kids go out the house like this.
Oh, oh,
I blame it on the culture in Atlanta. No, I'm kidding.
oh! I'm not touching that.
Nah,
Oh, I'm not touching that at all. I'm just no comment, and you guys have a wonderful
Yeah, good man. Hey, we're
all
the
right.
Couple of Controversial Podcast, man. The Sport Talk, man. We out of here.
All
All right.
right.
Good day, fellas.
Later.